Welcome everybody to the next episode of the Cannabis Review. I'm delighted to be joined on this episode by Andrew Bonello, who is the President at ReLeaf Malta. He's worked since 2019 tirelessly to represent the voice of cannabis consumers in Malta, and I'm delighted to have you on the show today, Andrew. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me on. Glad to be here.
Great to have you on. So we're going to touch on all things Malta and try and explain to the patients and the consumers out there what's going on in your exact territory. So do you want to maybe give everybody a quick overview of how you ended up becoming the president of ReLeaf Malta, and we do that in under a minute?
Well, yeah, sure. Basically, I've been an activist for at least the past 10 years, basically due to the draconian approach we've had locally towards cannabis consumption and possession. Things were getting out of hand. The arrests were happening on a daily basis, and we saw some crazy prison sentences as well. So it was time to step up and actually get out and do something about it. So we had a change in government in 2013, where they seemed to be pretty interested in listening, which was great. And once they kind of opened the door, we barged in.
Okay, amazing. So it seems to be a story that's replicating itself around the world, that everybody thinks they've got their own isolated case, whereas the laws were very draconian, very severe. People have stepped up to the plate like yourselves, and there's a number of activists in Ireland doing the same thing to help kind of smooth out the edges of the laws, and if not, get a full adult use market going. Can you maybe give everybody a quick overview of what are the kind of cannabis consumers in Malta in terms of demographic, and is it 70% male, 30% female? Is it mostly under 35-year-olds? Is it over 60-year-olds? What does the consumer look like in Malta?
Well, look, I mean, obviously, it's hard to be precise, because when you have such a draconian zero tolerance type setup, and there's no way to know exactly what the demographics are, because it's so underground. But I will say this, that your typical cannabis consumer in Malta is just a responsible person who usually has a job and a family like everybody else. It's just that they choose to use cannabis over maybe some other legal types of substances.
Okay, and is there any figures calculated so far on what is the size of the population that use cannabis in Malta? Over in Ireland, it looks like it's in around 10% of the population of Ireland will consume cannabis as a recreational activity.
Yes, well, our past parliamentary secretary had come out and said that we were around the 40,000 mark, and that's cannabis consumers. Don't forget that we are a population of 450,000, maybe close, pushing to 500,000 now. So yeah, I'd say it's around 40,000, but that's being very conservative. Now that things have moved forward, obviously we'll be able to collect more data, which is something we've been pushing for, to be able to obviously implement sort of better policies, to update our policies as well, together with what the data we managed to collect.
Okay, and next topic I wanted to jump onto was basically just an overview of Malta and cannabis. So we saw that you had very draconian laws. Then you had an election. They had a different viewpoint on medical cannabis. Then that they basically had laws where companies could set up facilities to be able to import product, rebrand it, repackage it, and ship it out then to the likes of Germany's medical cannabis market. Is that currently exactly where the industry's at in Malta, or is there any talk about an adult use recreational market and the potential for cannabis tourism to take place in Malta?
Well, medical cannabis entered the scene in around 2018. And unfortunately, so the companies that were attracted were sort of the bigger, well-established, well-known companies that came here to set up, like you said, to import, basically rebrand and export. And this started to happen before actual local patients were able to access medical cannabis. So there was a bit of an overlap over there. So we had to be quite vocal about that. So the Medicines Authority then had to start letting some pharmaceutical companies here import to be able to satisfy the local medical cannabis patient market. So that sort of came in after the cannabis companies were established locally. But at the moment, yes, there are over, I think, between 50 and 20 companies here, which, like you said, import from other countries and repackage and outsource. But we do finally have some cannabis on the market, which is from the local companies. So the prices obviously did drop a little. But and then with the new law, which came out at the end of last year, which was an amendment to our sort of Narcotics Act, where it's entitled sort of cannabis to be grown at home. 4 plants are allowed to be grown at home without fear of persecution or arrest. So once that sort of came into effect, then the medical cannabis prices started to drop even further. So they've gone down to sort of quite affordable at the moment, and we have a system where your local GP can prescribe cannabis, but of course you have to get a control card first, and that has to be signed off by the Superintendent of Public Health. But the onus does then fall on the doctor. So the doctor has to take full responsibility for what he is prescribing. And so that's kind of the situation we are at the moment. Regarding recreational cannabis, yes, we had in the last amendments, which I mentioned and which came out in December 2019, we're going to be having, well, an authority for the responsible use of cannabis has been set up with a chairperson and a board. This authority is still sort of being finalized, and they're still trying to put sort of their team together. It hasn't been concluded yet, so that's taken about a year. But when all this happens, according to law, basically we'll be allowed to have associations which will be allowed to have up to 500 members and dispense to each member up to 7 grams of cannabis a day, up to 50 grams of cannabis a month. Unfortunately, there won't be any on-site consumption, so there won't really be social clubs. There will be they're called associations, where you will go in as a member, be able to acquire cannabis and leave. So the only legal place one can consume is in their own house at the moment. But of course, we can walk around in public with 7 grams on us. The police can't do anything about that or take it, which was quite a big win for us. And also the inclusion of the expungement of criminal records, which came into effect as well, which is something very positive. But we still have to see, how many people have applied, how many people have been actually given, how many have had their conduct expunged.
Okay, very interesting. So the home grow rules seem to be in the catalyst now for these. Well, obviously not social clubs because they can't consume them then, but let's say membership clubs where a consumer can purchase their own cannabis grown by a much larger facility. Is that expected to be announced very soon, or is that the ability to do that available right now?
So the ability is not available because they still have to issue the final guidelines. But obviously there are organizations which are getting together and teaming up, and they're ready to put their names forward to make this happen. But maybe one thing I left out is important to mention is that this would be run as a non-profit system. So it's not really going to be an industry per se. It's more going to be the community looking after its own community. As opposed to sort of big business coming in and taking over.
Yeah, which is what they want to do everywhere. And when it comes to the control cards for medical cannabis, as you said, the doctor is responsible for whatever they prescribe and the amount they prescribe. But how hard is it to get a control card? Is there a specific model that everybody has to follow the exact same rules, or is there?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
done through the Department of Justice or the Department of Health, or what governmental body is it? Is it run through over Malta?
It's the Superintendent of Public Health is basically the person that would sign off your control card at the end of the day. But you have to first of all see your doctor, and you have to prove to your doctor as well that you have been on at least 2 medications that have not worked for you, basically for your ailments. So once you can prove that to the doctor, then the doctor will apply for you to get your control card through the Superintendent of Public Health. I don't know how many have been rejected. Unfortunately, I do know that people that have had a past substance abuse problem, who have entered the rehabilitation center anytime in their lives, will be rejected. Also, people that drive vehicles for a living will be rejected. So there are some rejections that could take place. But I think on the whole, when we look at the way medical cannabis is dispensed throughout Europe, I think Malta is probably one of the, according to the doctors anyway, is one of the best the best in Europe.
Yeah, you definitely seem to be one of the model countries so far in the European industry. I wanted to touch now about basically the letters you guys sent to Ursula von der Leyen about the CBD flower seizure. So this is a big thing in Ireland at the moment. There's a number of court cases going to happen, and it seems to be that one thing that seems to be happening all around Europe. And on one side, you can understand the police and the guards. They don't understand what's CBD flower and what's regular flower. So for them, it looks like a duck and it smells like a duck, quacks like a duck, but then it must be a duck. So how did those letters go that you sent in, and was there any reply back from her office?
No, we got a reply and an acknowledgement. But the situation is this. Look, as I know you have the same situation in Ireland, but we actually had a law. Our law was amended in 2019, like I said. And in that law, it says that cannabis is now going to be considered anything with 0.2% THC upwards. Anything below 0.2% is not considered cannabis in the law. So unfortunately, it's being interpreted by the prosecution in a different way, you know, because they're saying that it's cannabis products, sort of CBD sort of products are one thing, but CBD flower is another thing. So our letter basically to von der Leyen was trying to get some sort of harmonization going where we, you know, just 100 kilometers away from where I am sitting right now, in Sicily, for example, you can buy CBD flower from a vending machine, and you can probably cross borders with it without any problem. But then in another European country like ours, then you will get arrested. Your house will be searched. You know, they can block your finances, freezing your finances, and lock you up for up to 48 hours. And this is actually still happening. You know, we're having places raided, shops are being raided, individuals just buying CBD flower online up to 3 or 4 grams are getting arrested and raided as well. So there's a lot of ongoing court cases at the moment. So it seems to be a bit messy when it comes to CBD flower. So we really would like to see some sort of harmonization and something to be sorted out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think a lot of European entities are hoping for the exact same thing. Last thing I wanted to touch on was basically the 7th of September meeting in Prague that recently happened. We also see that there's a politician from Malta that's part of a European coalition of different politicians looking to change the law. What can you tell us about the action that they're enacting at the moment, and is it going to be of much use to the industry?
Well, I mean, what happened over there was obviously a very positive move. It was something we had suggested as well before, or just after the law had come in, that we need to get together with other like-minded countries and try and move forward together, especially us being such a small sort of nation. So it was, but they did release a letter. Obviously, they released a statement after that meeting, which was very positive as well. But I do feel that we need other countries to join, to make it stronger, so we can actually take it to the European Union and discuss it sort of as a whole. So that way, hopefully, things can move forward. Obviously, let's not forget there are the international conventions as well to deal with. So it is more complex than one might sort of think. You know, it's not just something that can be done overnight. There are a lot of countries that have to agree. If one country wants to legalize, you know, the other countries seem to have to agree as well. So it is a bit convoluted. So having these countries getting together, even if it was just a few, like you said in Luxembourg, was a major first step.
Yeah, and hopefully there's many more positive steps to come, and we have a European-wide industry within the next number of years where we can all travel freely and sample the best cultivars that Europe will have to offer.
Let's hope, and let's hope that Malta will have its own cultivars too, and people will be coming here to taste ours.
Well, I think that's everybody's game, is that they have their own identity, their own cultivars and their own products, that there's no need for international MSOs from North America to come over and set up here when there's already the talent and the nuanced ability already here.
Totally agree. I think, but if we're going to build something, it's got to be built from the grassroots. It's the consumers that know what they want. They might not want the sort of McDonald's type of cannabis to be the first thing to hit the market. So that's why we're kind of really interested and like the setup of cannabis social clubs, where you can really get to socialize, you can get to meet your peers. And obviously, if anyone ever does develop a problem, you've got help there. Then you can get educated. There's so many things you can do within a cannabis social club with the consumers. So I look forward to see this spreading around Europe faster than any sort of big business taking over.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's been amazing talking to you, Andrew. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully we get to touch base over the next 12 months and we can get an update on Malta and how everything is going for you guys. But for now, thank you very much for your time.
Anytime, Owen. Thank you very much for having me.
Until next episode, everybody.